Hey guys, it's Nova, and welcome back to Cupid. Last episode, things got a bit crazy, and I'm gonna admit to, at one point I had actually forgotten how dark this visual novel is, especially with the nature of the first two episodes, much lighthearted in comparison to what happened last episode. Unfortunately, I was right about, Catherine. She unfortunately met an untimely demise, and it's suspected that Guilleme played a part in this, either directly or indirectly. And we also saw that Rosa, and I guess by extension her mother, seemed to have some kind of special powers, because Rosa tried to cast a spell to find out more about Guilleme's part in Catherine's death, and, was met with some very adverse effects on her part, which now is raising all sorts of questions, both from Rose's end and from Guilleme's end. So really interested to see now where this novel is going to take us. So without further ado, let's just get started. Rosa entered the room with a tray of pastries and a pot of tea. Her duties were finished and she was allowed a bit of free time. She thought of accompanying Catherine for today's piano lesson. Oh boy. Cat, excuse me. Cat, do you want some tea? Oh, this is a flashback. Or is she haunted by a vision? I guess I'm about to get my answer on what happened to Catherine. The girl didn't look her way. She continued to churn out the bitter, melancholic sound from her piano. Rosa sighed, her shoulders slumped in the feet. She placed the food on the table. She sat on the stool beside the piano, twiddling her thumbs while her friend continued to stew in her foul mood. Man, this is depressing considering what we knew Catherine to be, especially in the second episode. First episode, we were slightly introduced to her, but we really got to see Catherine for who she was in episode 2. So this is really sad to hear. Is that a new composition? It sounds nice. Nowadays, you make a new piece every day. It's a shame they're all so sad. Catherine didn't reply to that, but when she spoke again, her words were bitter. Oh dear. I saw them again, those degenerate louts. No shame at all. Cat. All right. Consenting damn adults and all that. Wow. She grew up, and not in a good way. It's almost like when you're a kid, and I don't know, not every kid believes in Santa, but it's almost like when you were young and youthful and, naive, and you believed in Santa Claus, and then reality hits you. And you're very cynical and whatnot. This is what it feels like right now that I'm looking at. Although, Gizmo, please, don't do that. I'm starting to wonder now if something else has happened to Catherine for her to make a comment like that. Or could it be Guilleme? Oh God, I can't, oof. At least have the decency to close the door. Sometimes I dare say that they want to get caught. Okay. When I walked in on them this morning, eating each other's faces, they had this look on them. Like they were daring me to say something. Wow, Catherine. This is, yeah. Okay, sorry about that, guys. I had to pause for a second to deal with some noise and some other things. Um, Quoi? Do they want my applause? Very nice technique, sire. Oh my god, are you serious? Oh, this changes things a whole deal. I know, wow. I know in the second episode, it was sort of hinting that Emily was starting to see interest in Guilleme, but this is a whole nother thing. Not to mention that now Catherine is older, so now is she actually acting this way out of jealousy? Or... Wow. Okay, things just got very interesting now. I very much like the way you swap your spit with my sister. Great tongue action. Okay, I'm not even going to try it. Tres, Mevelos? And he even has the gall to speak to me? Be a dear and put them on the table, Catherine, he even said. Like I'm a soft-headed giggle muffin of a maid. He wanted me to get annoyed, I just know it. Well, fâché, I am. Catherine turned to the tea and pastries, stuffing the buttered bread into her mouth. Easy there. Yeah, I agree with Rosa, calm down. These damn things. These damn delicious things. She said the last part angrily, as if she blamed her troubles on the food's relish. Rosa giggled in spite of herself. Catherine wiped her mouth in mock anger. Okay, please tell me you're saying that as a joke. What are you laughing at, wench? Okay. The fact that she didn't get sad when she said that, okay. It's almost comical to watch you eat when you're angry, Cat. You're like the giant monsters that attack defenseless towns in horror books. Oh, yes? Catherine made sad, tiny squeals and picked up another piece of bread. No, please spare us. She adjusted her voice and boomed out a roar. Okay, here's the old cat that I remember. Good grief. I was a little scared at first, although I still think that we're going to see a much more mature version of her from now on. Unfortunately, in more ways than one, I have a feeling. Oh, Catherine. The Catherine monster of the deep doesn't show mercy to anyone. She dropped it in her mouth and chewed savagely. Yum, annihilation is delicious with tea. The two girls giggled. Catherine's rare smile turned into a rueful laugh. And soon, Rosa felt her mood turning somber again. What happened anyway? Aren't you annoyed by it too? Sister has changed ever since she started helping in the chateau. Oh boy. Now it's all Guilleme this, Guilleme that. Oh no, this is even worse. I was wondering what happened with the person that she had mentioned that she was going to marry. Oh man, I was hoping she was at least still single. This makes it worse. Granted, more juicy, but worse. As if she wasn't already married. Ugh. She doesn't even care that people are talking behind her back. They're calling her a two-timing slut now. I'm tired of running around picking fights with gossipers. You know, I gotta say, props to you, Catherine, because if it were me, I would have just, sometimes you gotta let your relatives and your friends sometimes deal with their own messes in that sense, especially if they brought it upon themselves. I mean, I know you would want, most people would want to jump to another person's defense if they hear, somebody talking bad about them. But sometimes it can't be helped, In your sister's case, she is knowingly gallivanting around with another man that isn't her husband. And unfortunately, they're right in that sense, and it might be hurtful to hear such talk, but she might just have to deal with it. She hasn't even visited home for a long time. Father misses her a lot. He always asks about her. Okay, I was starting to wonder too if Catherine had moved in with Guilleme. I know in the not the previous episode, but I think the episode before that it was talked about that she would visit Guilleme from time to time, but that that she wasn't going to live with him, that she was going to stay with her father. So, alright, okay. Father has worked so hard all these years just to give us a comfortable life. Now, oh no. Not him now, no. Now he is sick, and all she cares about is that dastardly Marquis. Rosa shrugged. I am a little bit annoyed. Welcome back, airplanes. We've all missed you. But I guess I've gotten used to it. I know that feeling. Right, airplanes? Right, Gizmo? Their lives are... Exactly. I just finished saying that earlier, Rosa. Their lives are their own, Cat. She didn't dare divulge more than... I guess they meant than that to Catherine. But it was partially true. I like Guilleme. He's a nice friend. But I love my sister. Aww. If they want to stay together, then why not fix this and have at it? Okay. Alright. Yeah. I hear you. I hear you. Wow, Catherine. Really? You couldn't have picked a different phrase? Wow. But what irritates me to my damn snatch is the way that they are with each other. Yeah, I was just... I was just wondering about that. Catherine recently found the use of expletives endearing in her speech. I don't know about endearing. Definitely wouldn't have used that phrase, like, ever. Rosa hoped it was a phase. I do too. Wow. Ugh. Oh, she's really laying into them now. Oh, man. They're fucking miserable. Any halfwit can see that. Yes. I've told Emily time and again to smarten up. She's hurting a lot of people, including herself. But that's... okay. Alright, thank you for saying how old you were, Catherine. At least now I know how much time has passed. But as, but at, bah. But as if she would listen to her 16-year-old brat of a sister, Even Guilleme is depressed, I can tell. Remember when he used to come and visit us here to have tea? Or when we used to have picnics in the afternoon? We used to run around chasing rodents in the gardens. You ran around. We just watched you get dirty, Ashley. That is very true, you nitheads. Back then, it used to be fun visiting the chateau. Nowadays, we barely even see him. He just stays in his bureau all day, brooding. Is this something adults subject themselves to, like a torture ritual? I really don't understand why two people who are clearly unhappy keep at it. Yeah, adults can be weird. Not gonna lie, adults can be weird, Catherine. Calm down, Gizmo. Rosa did understand. At least some part of her did. She couldn't exactly explain how pain and love work. All she knew that it had something to do with an absurd obsession amount of hope. She felt Mother tugging at her mind. She loved Mother so much. Living with the Paredes gave her ample comparison to her former life. Thank you. Thank you. This was needed. This was needed. Gizmo? Not now. No, not now. You need to settle down. She had finally accepted that Mother was cruel. And really? Really, Gizmo? And yet, Mother still gave her love and kept her from wanting. Was that crazy? I don't think you're crazy for feeling that way, Rosa. I actually know where you're coming from. I have gone through this, or I'm actually going through this right now, so no, you're not crazy for feeling that way. Okay, no, that I don't agree with. Perhaps it was the only love she needed. Perhaps it was what she deserved. Rosa shook the thoughts off her mind and just shrugged. I know you're just worried about your sister, Cat, but they will figure it out. Humans learn. Catherine, look at you, all profound and shit. You read any good books lately? Just a riveting account of the ugly duckling and Ba Ba Black Sheep. Ah, the classics. I don't know how you put up with it, though. I hate reading words. In order to write, I have learned how to read first. I want to write. Why would you want to do a dastardly thing like writing? Why would you want to hit some crazy strings until your fingers bled? The two friends laughed again. I want to remember things. I want to write them down. But most of all, I want to feel the way you do when you play the piano, Cat. Oh? The way you look when you play, you are passion and bliss in musical form. It feels like love, like magic. You inspire me to do something fulfilling and grand. Well, I'm sure you will. Hey, why not write a play one day? Oh? Let's do it. You write an amazing play, and I shall provide the music. We'll travel around the country and perform. We'll make lots and lots of money and gain lots of followers. Sounds like YouTube. We shall be known as The Parade Caravan of Wonders. That actually has an interesting ring to it. Parade? Are you sure? Puns are the best, trust me. That sounds darn batty, Kathy. Aw, all these little pet names she has for her. From this day forward, no one is allowed to call me Kathy ever again. The sound of a knock interrupted their giggles. Oh boy, this is going to get interesting. Catherine, it's me. I need to discuss something important with you. Frustrated, Catherine pouted at the sound of her sister's voice. Wow. She turned back to her piano and began to pound a sarcastically happy tune. Rosa stood up to open the door. Hello, Rosa. Madame. She had seen little of the older Parade sister recently, and it astounded her how old she had begun to look. Her once radiant face looked tired and harrowed, almost crone-like. Under her eyes hung huge bags. And yet she still looked quite dignified, full of pride and pomp. There was extra rouge on her skin, and her demeanor was elegant. It was as if pride was her only source of nourishment these days. Do you mind giving Catherine and me a moment of privacy? Rosa gave a small bow. Of course not, madame. Rosa gathered her nursery books and squeezed Catherine's shoulder before stepping out of the room. Rosa entered the quiet room of the library. She was about to approach the table when she noticed Guilleme already occupying a seat. He was writing something in a book, somewhat immersed in the activity. Rosa stopped dead in her tracks. You know, before the last episode, I would have actually tried to engage him, like try to interact with him as much as possible, partially to spite Mother and partially because our character is interested in him. But I'm really seeing him in another light now, and it's like I don't want anything to do with him, but at the same time I am still intrigued about him. I'm just gonna say leave now, because I mean, think about it too. He could actually be busy and might not want company, he might not want to be disturbed. At least that's my reasoning. That's what I'm gonna go with. What are you doing just standing there? He's going to see you. Leave now while you still have the chance. All right, Mother. Maybe you're right. Unfortunately, Guilleme lifted his head and saw her by the door. Oh, hello, Rosa. Oh, wow, look how red her face is. Rosa took a step back. Maybe it was best to walk away, as if this was a mistake. But wouldn't that be rude? He had already seen her, after all. But she had never been alone with him. It was just too awkward. Well, why not just go in? It was going to be fine. Famous last words. They had conversed normally before. Yet, that was because Catherine had been around to disperse her awkwardness. Now I look like an idiot. Guilleme watched her pace in front of the door in amusement. Rosa decided to go in. She had already embarrassed herself enough anyway. There was little left to lose. Besides, there was nowhere else to go in this big house. She had already gotten lost in its hallways much to the annoyance of the maitre d'. The library was her favorite place. Yeah, me too. If I had a library at home, I would be stoked. If she sat quietly in one corner, Rosa was sure that they wouldn't bother each other. She took a seat at the farthest corner of the... Excuse me, guys. I don't know if I'm just a little congested or what. Excuse me. She took a seat at the farthest corner of the table and opened her book. Oh no, he's actually standing up and walking over? No, you heart. Oh, I see, because she's thinking about the stuff that he's done with Catherine's sister. I was going to say, she was so head over, well, maybe not head over heels, but she was so infatuated with him. It's just weird to hear her calling him a horrible man. And I know that this is a flashback since Catherine is still alive, obviously, in this. No, you horrible man. Just sit over there while I sit over here. But Guilleme was already beside her, peeking at what she was reading. A cold sweat spread on her scalp. Rosa, that book. Rosa began to chatter nervously. I know it's a children's book, sire. I'm teaching myself to read. I know most commoners don't really bother, but I want to learn. So please don't laugh or mock me. Guilleme pointed to the book. Oh, you poor dear. It is upside down. Rosa stared at it. The ducks in the picture had their feet up in the air. Rosa squirmed, feeling the heat on her cheeks. She couldn't think of anything more embarrassing. I'm sorry. Guilleme's face lost its cheer. What do you need my forgiveness for? Rosa looked up at Guilleme. His eyes lacked the gentle glint they usually had. Excuse me, guys, 1 second. Okay, I'm back, and I'm feeling a little bit better, so let's continue, shall we? It was such a subtle change. Something felt rather than observed. She thought... spoke too soon. Good grief. I might only be able to do one episode today, at this rate. She thought he would reprimand her further. His face certainly looked like it. Instead, he sat down beside Rosa, drumming his fingers on his cheek while he watched her wordlessly. Well? Weren't you going to read? What was wrong with him today? He didn't seem like himself. Yeah, he is coming off a little strange here. Like he's almost... Ooh. Had he eaten something bad? The aura he exuded was not his usual friendly warmth. Yet it wasn't particularly wicked. The look on his face just read slightly internally miffed. I should get that on a t-shirt. I should do that, guys. Rosa turned the book upright and what am I, Elmer Fudd? And read the words out loud. Once, yeah, that is the U with the short sound. It is pronounced like this. Guilleme made the sound, his face still in his lazy stare. Rosa nodded and continued. Her nerves were frazzled, but she was actually at ease in his presence. She felt like a child being taught by their parent. Yeah, that's the weird vibe that I'm getting here, in a way. Um, which can be a little intimidating at times, depending on the person and depending on the other person watching them. Yeah. The parent was strict but still caring. Okay, sorry about that. Again, Gizmo decided she wanted to try and scratch something that she wasn't supposed to. And the child was jumpy, but eager to learn and please. Most of all, he would not hurt her for her mistakes. Rosa was almost sure. Their lipid lived. The past tense of live. Why do we change it? It is a rule of grammar that... Grammar? Guilleme narrowed his eyes at her. Do you even know your alphabet? Rosa shook her head. You should start there. Guilleme rose from his chair and disappeared amongst the shelves. He left behind an old thick book covered in green felt. This is what he had been writing in earlier. It looked tattered and worn. The pages lay fat on its side so that the book didn't close properly. Okay, I'm sorry. I thought that they meant to say flat, but in this case it makes sense to say fat. Rosa reached out to peek at the cover when... Oh. You are not to touch that. Rosa's whole body froze at the sound of Guilleme's warning. Guilleme's stare followed her even as she whispered numerous apologies under her breath. I'm sorry, I'm sorry, I'm sorry. Yeah, this is weird to see him, like this. Guilleme just rolled his eyes. You are always seeking forgiveness for everything. Am I? I'm so... Whoa. I mean, wow, man, just calm the freak down. Have a sandwich or something. His hand struck the table in front of Rosa. In the quiet library, the sound rang uncomfortably in her ear. When she looked up, Guilleme's face was looming severely above hers. He moved closer to her, his eyes fixed on her intensely. Rosa's mouth hung open. She struggled to say something, but her wits were like the burning ends of a matchstick. Before she could compose herself, she felt Guilleme's hand lift her chin. Rosa's heart thumped loudly inside her chest. Oh. She's thinking back. Oh, poor dear. Please don't. Not you too. She felt his breath on her face, and her heart sank into despair. She shut her eye and prepared herself for the worst, like she always did when... Then she felt her face being turned from side to side. She opened her eye to see Guilleme studying her face like a textbook. Thank you? Or are you being condescending here? I mean, the way you've been acting, I don't know. You are a fairly attractive girl. Why do you carry yourself as if it was a slight? He lifted the hair that hid her damaged eye. Rosa clenched her teeth. Is it because you were hurt before? He said it so matter-of-factly that he was stating that the sky was blue. Rosa recoiled from his touch. No. I did that to myself. I wasn't talking about your eye. He placed the book on the table. It was a thin pamphlet filled with letters. There were lines on the book that instructed the user to trace letters with their quill. Rosa wanted to focus on it, but she could feel the truth in the Marquis's words stinging her. It was the way you went limp when I touched you. Next time, I advise you to fight back. If you don't want to be touched, then you don't have to be. Okay, you know what? As weird as you were acting, and considering I still don't know about your role in Catherine's death, I gotta respect you for saying that, because that's important for a really mild-mannered person to hear. I mean, I know it's common sense, but sometimes it's hard for them to want to talk back or fight back or stand up for themselves. So it's good that you see that she needs to learn to do that for herself. So I do thank you for that. Do you understand this? But I am weak. Says who? His eyes were humorous. The world cares not for people who think of themselves as victim, Rosa. If you need power, then be powerful. To have it, it is necessary to crush things along the way. Rosa flinched under the weight of his stare. She realized that the polite and courteous Guilleme was but a facet? I wonder if they meant facade. It's hard because sometimes, I know I sometimes misread words and then I trip myself up, but then there are times when there are typos or the word that I wouldn't have thought of to use is used. Like, I know what a facet is, but I feel that facade would have actually worked better here, especially considering what facade means. I don't know, just a little thing I noticed about this visual novel. It was still him. There was nothing but an old oil portrait, an artwork of his devising. Synthetic, aloof, and irrelevant, it couldn't capture his essence in a few human strokes. Suddenly, Rosa realized he was powerful. Who are you? She caught her. Oh, okay. I was going to say she said that out loud. Wow. Who are you? She caught herself before saying it aloud. You are not Guilleme. And yet, he spoke to her as if he knew what it was like to hurt and to fear. If you don't start acting like you own yourself, then people will not hesitate to take everything. Ain't that the freaking truth? He laid out the rest of the books he had bought out. One was an activity book for children. It had a picture of a child holding an apple with an arrow stuck in it. Another was a book of limericks. The other two were thicker books that intimidated her. She would come to know them as Hamlet and Paradise Lost. Paradise Lost. I gotta look that up. That sounds familiar. But the one that caught her eye was an ornately designed book. It had a beautiful red jacket with delicate gold trimmings lining the corners. The gods and goddesses of Roman mythology. Oh, okay. This would be her favorite book, her treasure, and she knew it like love at first sight. These books are yours. Take them with you. Read the thin ones first, and then gradually build your vocabulary with the thicker ones. Rosa ran her hands over the skin of the red book. She opened the cover gingerly, as if carefully unwrapping a present. Thank you. No thanks needed. I simply showed you some books from a portion of the library you were unaware of. You are still so generous, even if you are like this. Like what? That pause in the music was like very aptly put. Wow. Because I thought he was going to flip out. That. What? Somewhat irritable? Guilleme didn't reply. leaving an awkward silence lingering between them. Then he gave a giant laugh that made Rosa jump out of her skin. I do look damn irritable, don't I? Why? Is it because of Emily? Guilleme's eyes drifted away. No. I've always been. You just pointed it out. But you were usually not like this. Especially with Catherine and the townspeople. I find it easy to adapt to people, especially to the ones I like. Guilleme looked at Rosa as if he had just become aware of her presence. Makes me wonder why I am so stern with you. I'm sorry. Rosa shook her head. I somehow prefer this side of you. Guilleme cocked his head to the side. He brought out the green book that Rosa noticed earlier. This is called a journal. When you learn to write, start one. What is it? Something you can use to remember yourself when you've forgotten. Does it work? It used to. Nowadays, not anymore. Oh. The act itself is the only thing I remember. Now, let's start with your vows. Whoa, whoa, whoa. Okay. A scream pierced the halls of the chateau. Oh boy, here we go. It was Catherine. Guilleme sprinted to the door with Rosa not far behind.